The argument that there is no original timeline in The Flash because Eobard Thawne is caught in a bootstrap paradox suggests that his actions are an inherent part of the timeline, rather than an external alteration. Here's how this perspective unfolds. The bootstrap paradox in Thawne's narrative. 1. Eobard's existence relies on Barry becoming the Flash. Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, is a character who only exists because Barry Allen becomes the Flash. His entire identity and powers are tied to the Speed Force, which Barry first accessed. Without Barry becoming the Flash, Thawne could never exist in the first place. 2. Thawne's role in killing Nora. When Thawne travels back in time to kill Nora Allen, he sets into motion the series of events that lead Barry to become the Flash. By killing Nora, he indirectly ensures that Barry will grow up in a world where he is driven by the trauma of her death to embrace his destiny as the Flash. This creates a loop where Thawne's existence depends on Barry's transformation into the Flash, which in turn depends on Thawne killing Nora. 3. No original timeline. In this view, the timeline where Nora dies is the only timeline that has ever existed. Thawne's time-traveling interference is not an aberration or a change, it is a necessary component of the timeline. This paradox implies that there was never an original timeline where Nora survived, as her death was always a fixed point required for the timeline to exist as it does. 4. The futility of changing fixed points. Barry's repeated attempts to undo Nora's death, such as in the Flashpoint arc, always result in catastrophic consequences. This reinforces the idea that her death is not just a product of Thawne's actions, but an unchangeable element of the timeline. Any effort to create an original timeline, free of Thawne's influence, collapses into the realization that Thawne was always part of the story. Thawne's deception as irrelevant. If Thawne is caught in a bootstrap paradox, his lies about the original timeline become inconsequential. Whether or not Thawne deceived Barry about what the timeline looked like before Nora's death, the paradox ensures that her death and the resulting sequence of events were always part of the timeline. Conclusion. This argument reframes Eobard Thawne not as someone who disrupts the timeline but as a crucial element of its structure. The events of The Flash hinge on the idea that time is self-consistent, and Thawne's actions, while seemingly malicious, are woven into the fabric of the timeline itself. Thus, there is no original timeline without Nora's death because her death, caused by Thawne, was always meant to happen. The mixed time travel concepts in the CW's The Flash, fixed timeline, dynamic timeline, and multiverse. The CW's The Flash stands as one of the most ambitious attempts to explore the complexities of time travel and superhero storytelling. However, the show does not adhere strictly to one time travel theory. Instead, it blends three major concepts: fixed timeline, dynamic timeline, and multiverse, which often leads to contradictions, confusion, and fascinating narrative possibilities. Fixed timeline. The fixed timeline theory suggests that certain events in the timeline are immutable, and will always occur regardless of attempts to alter them. This is prominently featured in The Flash with Barry Allen's repeated attempts to save his mother, Nora Allen. 1. Nora Allen's death as a fixed point. Barry's mother's death serves as a cornerstone of the timeline. When Barry tries to save her in Season 1, future Barry gestures to him not to intervene, implying that this event is unchangeable without catastrophic consequences. Even in the Flashpoint arc, when Barry does save Nora, the resulting alternate timeline is riddled with devastating changes, ultimately forcing Barry to allow her death to restore some semblance of order. 2. Eobard Thawne's role. Thawne killing Nora is essential to the timeline because it catalyzes Barry's transformation into the Flash. This creates a bootstrap paradox. Barry becomes the Flash because of Thawne's interference, but Thawne exists as the Reverse Flash only because of Barry's legacy. 3. Fixed events despite variability. Some events, like Barry gaining his powers or Nora's death, seem to anchor the timeline. These moments suggest that the show's writers often lean on fixed timeline logic to establish pivotal points in the narrative. Dynamic timeline. Dynamic timelines operate on the idea that time is malleable and can be rewritten. This concept is frequently utilized in the series, creating tension and drama as Barry and his team struggle to deal with the consequences of their actions. 1. The Flashpoint Paradox. In Season 3, Barry creates a new reality, Flashpoint, by saving Nora. This altered timeline demonstrates how one change can ripple through history, affecting both minor and major events. However, when Barry restores the timeline, it is not identical to the original, showcasing that even attempts to fix time leave scars. 2. Savitar and Time Remnants. Savitar, a future, evil version of Barry Allen, is a direct product of a dynamic timeline. He exists because Barry creates time remnants to defeat Zoom, only for one to become embittered and turn into Savitar. This demonstrates how time travel can fracture and rewrite timelines in unpredictable ways. 3. Wally West's powers. After Flashpoint, Wally gains speedster powers, further illustrating how changes to the past create new variables in the present. 4. Constant adjustments to the timeline. The series frequently explores how small changes, e.g., Cisco's brother's death, or major alterations, e.g., Flashpoint, reshape the timeline. These shifts lean heavily on the dynamic timeline model. Multiverse theory. The multiverse adds an additional layer of complexity, suggesting that alternate versions of Earth exist simultaneously, each with its own timeline. The show integrates this concept into its time travel mechanics, blurring the lines between alternate realities and altered timelines. 1. Earth 2 and Beyond. Introduced early in the series, the multiverse allows the show to explore alternate versions of characters, such as Earth 2's Harrison Wells and Killer Frost. While these Earths are distinct, time travel sometimes connects them. 2. Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event merges the multiverse into a single, unified Earth Prime. This monumental event blends multiverse theory with time travel, as characters from various Earths converge to stop a universal collapse. 3. Parallel outcomes. Barry's actions on Earth 1 often have implications across the multiverse. For instance, time travel on Earth 1 sometimes creates echoes or alternate versions of events on other Earths. 4. Future and alternate Barrys. The multiverse concept intertwines with dynamic timelines, as future or alternate versions of Barry, such as Savitar or the 2024 Barry Allen, exist as divergent possibilities influenced by past actions. The blending of theories. The CW's The Flash mixes these concepts liberally, creating both opportunities and inconsistencies. 1. Contradictions in the timeline. While Nora Allen's death is treated as a fixed point, other events, like the creation of new metahumans, suggest a dynamic timeline. The show struggles to reconcile these approaches, leaving audiences unsure about the rules governing time travel. 2. The multiverse's impact on time. The multiverse complicates the timeline by introducing alternate versions of events. For example, actions on Earth 1 sometimes ripple into the multiverse, suggesting an interconnectedness that blurs the boundaries between dimensions and timelines. 3. Narrative complexity. The blending of theories allows the show to explore a wide range of narrative possibilities, from Barry's emotional struggle with Nora's death to the larger, cosmic stakes of Crisis on Infinite Earths. However, it often sacrifices coherence for drama, leading viewers to piece together how these theories coexist. Conclusion. The CW's The Flash thrives on its ambitious approach to time travel but creates a tangled web by mixing fixed timeline, dynamic timeline, and multiverse concepts. While this approach allows for rich storytelling and high stakes, it often results in inconsistencies that challenge both characters and viewers. Ultimately, this blend of theories reflects the show's central theme, the complexity of time and the consequences of tampering with it. Through its exploration of these ideas, The Flash captures the chaos and wonder of being a speedster caught in the currents of time.